Wowee, what an Austrian Grand Prix that was. Holy shit. Oh my god.
Shit hit the fan.
Bro, it did. Bro, that was mental. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. It's gonna be probably considered one of the best races of the season. However, it wasn't that exciting up until the last 10 laps, was it?
Honestly, if that hadn't happened at the end, it was a pretty dull race.
Deadest race, man. So dead.
It was one of the deadest Austrian races we've had.
Yeah, I mean, it got pretty exciting between the Alpines at one point and the Haas's, but apart from that, it wasn't really much. Yeah, it wasn't really much going on, was there? So, but hey ho, I mean, Red Bull fucked their pit stop and gave us something to be excited about.
Yes, they did, and boy, was that costly.
Yes, it really was. I mean, not only has it cost Max, the chance to lose the race, but it actually cost him the race win in the end with that. Yep. With that collision with Lando, which we'll get onto.
Oh yeah, we'll get onto that.
But I don't know. I mean, let's just dive straight in then. Let's give our driver ratings for the Austrian weekend. Now, obviously, usually we only just rank qualifying and the race, but because it's a sprint weekend, it's a little bit more complex, right? We are ranking them from SQ1 all the way to the end of the checkered flag for the actual Grand Prix. So we have to take everything into consideration here. It's a little bit more difficult. There'll be a few more talking points. But Jack, let's do it then. We're going to go in order of the finishes for the Grand Prix. Give our result 1 to 5. 1 being the worst. 0 if it's an absolute stinker. And then 5 being the best. And I'm sure there'll be a lots of 1s and a lots of 5s today. Because there was it was either you did really bad or you did really good.
Well, there's a couple of drivers that are just...
Well, yeah. Let's jump straight in then. So, I don't think we've ever had this before, but 20th, it's Lando Norris.
No.
Who was, by the way, still classified as 7 laps down.
Fair play.
Yeah, technically he didn't retire, so...
No, it's difficult. So, sprint qualified second.
Yeah, very good qualifying.
Sprint race finished third after the move that he tried to pull on Max. Max going back. Oscar skated through. And then quali, P2.
Yeah.
That's all we can ask for. Out qualified Oscar twice. Was there with him in sprint. Absolutely destroyed everyone else in the race apart from Max. Well. It's difficult, isn't it?
I'm going to just go straight out there. I'm giving a 4 to Lando Norris. Now, I know. We always say you can't give...
That can tell you what side of the tree you're on with Max.
You can't give a 4 to someone who's still classified but finished last. But you can. Because the sprint race, he tried to pull it. And you know what Ayrton Senna said, if you don't go for a gap that is there, you're no longer a racing driver. We would have been kicking ourselves if Lando didn't try and overtake Max in the sprint race. And he did. And unfortunately, he lost a position to his teammate. But at the end of the day, it's only the sprint. He tried to pull it. It didn't work. He only lost a point. It's okay, right? And it's the sprint race. In the race, he went for the win in the end. And got a little bit lucky with the VSC and Max's pit stop. But he went for the win. And it wasn't his fault. And I firmly believe he would have won that race. Max on the old mediums, Lando on the new mediums. Max was struggling really, really badly. I think Lando would have won.
The only thing that I think might have stopped him from that win was track limits.
Yes.
And he had gone over the track limits before that crash. He was under investigation for it, but nothing came of it because he crashed.
Yeah, there was no point in penalising.
No.
And penalising him.
So, I think if Max had known that he was under investigation, would Max have done that?
I think Red Bull would have told him straight away.
Well, then, that's even worse by Max.
I mean, someone can tell us if you've listened to the F1 TV live radios. I mean, if Max is... I mean, because obviously the radios
if Max
live,
was aware that Lando's under investigation for track limits, I think track limits is now what? Is that 5 or 10 seconds?
It's 10.
But yeah, so all Max needs to do is let him by and coax around in his slipstream.
Yeah. There was no need. I mean, either way, track limits or not, it was so unnecessary from Max. And we'll get onto that because, well, I mean, still finished 5th somehow. But, yeah, so Lando, I'm giving a 4. I can't...
I'm uneasy giving him a 4, though.
I get that. But the thing is, I was going to give him a 5. But I can't give him a 5 because he hasn't won the race.
No, I was never going to give him a 5 over the whole weekend.
If he won the race, I'm giving him a 5.
You see, I would, but he made the move in the sprint, right? He left himself vulnerable to Oscar. Like, it was his fault that Oscar got through. He could have rectified that braking earlier. He was balls to the wall, which fair play to him. But he caused his own downfall to finish P3. It wasn't Oscar, it was him.
Yeah, but you're saying caused his own downfall. We've got to remember the consequences in the sprint race. It's a point. It's 1 point, and he has to go for it.
I know it's the point, but as we've seen, 2021, you can go into the final race level on points. Every point matters.
Yeah, of course it does.
Every point. That's like, fastest lap. There's no point because it's just a point. It's always a point. There is always a point to 1 point.
No, dead right. I mean, if it's the race, we're having a different conversation. But because it's the sprint, I think he has to go for that. And I mean, unfortunately, it didn't stick.
No, he has to go for it. But I think there was nothing wrong with the move that he went for. What was wrong was how he tried to stick it round with Max, the way that Max came back at him. I think a little bit more racecraft, a bit more awareness could have solidified himself in at P2 ahead of Oscar still, and then maybe even could have come back at Max.
Possibly. I mean, I can't give him a 5 because obviously he hasn't won the race, but I think we're being a bit harsh not giving him a 4 when he's finished top 3, qualified second twice, and challenged for the win in the actual race. I mean,
right. I know, but say Max and Lando don't crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're fine. Lando eventually overtakes Max, finishes about second in front.
Yep.
He's got a penalty there for track limits. 10-second time penalty. That's the track limits is him going over the white lines 4 times in a row. Which he would be the only one that's done that. Is it still a 5 even though he has technically won the race? No.
Okay, no, if track limits
Lando was never getting a 5.
If track limits comes into play, which obviously it didn't, so we don't know, but if it did, then it obviously is a 4 then.
Categorically, we can say track limits was going to be a thing because he did. We saw with our own eyes. He got the black and white flag, and then he went off the track about 4 times after that.
But the thing, it's a very subjective track limits. I know it's meant to be black and white, right? But that's usually when you go over the white line and you basically cut the corner, right? But that wasn't cutting the corner. Extent. It was, yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't even a track extent because he's gone wide, lost time, and then even though he's rejoined in front of Max, he's given the place back. So he hasn't gained anything from doing it. If anything, he might have even damaged his floor. He might have hurt his tyres. This is the thing. So it's a very subjective...
There wasn't one instance of it. I think that's the main issue. There wasn't one instance after the black and white flag. There was 3, 4, maybe even 5 you could have counted.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I'm saying it's subjective. Like, is he gaining time? No, then it's not a penalty. If he's obviously cutting the corner and going over the white line and track extending, and he's getting closer to Max by doing so, then yeah, it's a 10-second time penalty, slam dunk, fair enough. But it wasn't as simple as that in this case. So we can't know whether it was going to be a penalty or not. Either way, all I'm saying is Lando had a fantastic weekend. It's Max's fault, and we'll get more onto why when we talk about Max, but I think Lando deserves a 4. He's had a brilliant weekend. He's been top 3, top 2 the whole weekend. Would have won the race. So it's 4 for me. Once again, showing his class.
I'm going with 3.
Damn, man. I just think that's really harsh.
No, it's harsh. I mean, the actual crash was Max's fault. But the way that Lando was driving, especially into turn 3 on consecutive laps, you could tell the crash was coming.
Right, yeah, but
So no,
that's the
the
crash. This is
the
not
crash,
Lando's fault though.
the actual contact was Max, but we literally said with three laps before it happened, they're crashing.
Yeah, but to use Lando's track extent as an insinuator for the crash means that you're taking that into account for his score when Lando had nothing to do with the contact. So therefore,
I have to take everything into account with the score, and the contact is at the end of the day.
But it wasn't Lando's fault. It was nothing to do with Lando. Lando made a move, got squeezed out, had nowhere to go, and Max has hit him.
Yeah, but my thing is there something to do with Lando? What I want to know what's gone on with Lando's retirement, because Max didn't retire. And if you watched both their in-laps to come in with their punctures, Lando overtook Max. Lando was pushing still with their puncture. Has he damaged his own floor, damaged his own car by pushing too hard, whereas Max didn't? As well.
No, I think you're looking at it too deeply. Max had an instant puncture. Lando clearly had a slow puncture because he was still quicker, and then when it got through to sector 3, he really started struggling. And obviously, when you have a puncture, you can either get really lucky and it doesn't damage your floor, it doesn't damage your side pods, or in Lando's case, quite clearly, there was no point in continuing because his car had taken too much damage.
Well, for me, it's a case of he didn't finish a race. Granted, it not all being his fault. But track limits, he was the only driver that we saw black and white flag. Which he has to keep it on the track, because at the end of the day, that can cause a championship or not a championship, as we've seen from 2012. He got outdone by his teammate in the sprint race. Granted, he went for a move. He fucked it up. Didn't even come back at his teammate. So, it's a 4 if he finishes. It's a 3 because he hasn't.
And all I'm saying is
that's my view.
That's fair. That's fair. The only reason why I'm saying is I'd agree, but it wasn't his fault that he didn't finish. No, so it's still a 4 for me. Either way,
it wasn't. It was 80% Max.
It's 100% Max. It's 100% Max. Where is that Lando's fault in any universe? Max literally swerves over to it. Lando's alongside and Max turns left into it. Well, it doesn't turn left, but doesn't turn right into the corner.
We'll get onto Max in a bit.
We will, but very reminiscent of 2016 as well. There's a lot of comparisons I need to make with that. Either way, Logan Sargent finished 19th. It's a 2. That Q2 appearance for me gives him a little bit more merit, but when you're 40 seconds from Guan Yu Zhou with like 10 laps to go, what the fuck are you doing?
He pitted the same amount as Charles.
I don't understand.
Pit stop over everyone.
40 seconds though.
Yeah, but it's an extra pit stop, which is
20 seconds.
20 to 25.
Yeah, but come on. He's still last by 20 seconds at that point then.
That's Logan Sargent things.
Exactly. It's not good enough. No, but he doesn't get a 1 because that Q2 appearance was pretty sick. I'm gonna lie.
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying.
The sprint qualifying, by the way, Logan, we were so impressed. we were loving it. Logan, you saved yourself from a 1 because you got it into Q2.
I play that.
But yeah, 18th is Fernando Alonso.
It's a 1.
Is it a 1?
Is it a 1? He just drove into the side of Zhou.
Yeah, he did, but it looked bad. No, it was hilarious. When we first saw it, because we didn't see his lockup, when we first saw it, it genuinely just looked like he punted Zhou. It looked like he used Zhou as a brake. It was so funny. We were just there like in disbelief. Has Fernando just done that? He's that fed up. He's just driven into the back of the Sauber.
The thing is, Fernando, he got out-qualified in the sprint by Stroll.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't in the race, to be fair, so he out-qualified him once, so it was 1-1.
Yeah.
The race, both Aston Martins were nowhere in the sprint race. And he's finished behind Stroll here. Granted, he got a penalty, but that was his own fault.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he was in that midfield pack on the pace, but he made that extra pit stop to go for the fastest lap, which, I mean, fair enough. Fernando just doing Fernando things. That's why he's finished so low down the order in the end.
Well,
But
how far back was he?
I don't know because I've only got +1 here, so I don't know.
Because I think he was still quite away.
Well, he would have been because he served the 10 seconds in the pits.
He was still behind Stroll before the pit stop.
Yeah, he was, but he was within that sort of range. I'm not giving him a 1. I mean, to group Stroll in as well. I mean, I'm just gonna group Stroll in now. I know we're talking about Stroll later, but I'm gonna give both a 2. It's just I can't.
No, if you're giving Stroll a 2, he's outdone Alonso all weekend, pretty much this weekend.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna give him a low 3 because you are right. You are right. I've got to concede that he has looked quicker than Alonso, but that Aston Martin is just so disappointing.
I've given Stroll a 2, Fernando 1.
I can't give Fernando a 1. I don't think it's a 1.
It is a 1.
It's not a 1.
How?
Because he's not been far enough away for it to be a 1, and he's not done anything absolutely catastrophic.
He's 18th.
Yeah, because he made an extra pit stop and had a 10-second time penalty to serve in the pit stop. That's why he's 18th.
He didn't. Yeah, he got the 10 seconds because he crashed.
Yeah, but it wasn't like he took Zhou out. He made a mistake, locked up, and clotted into his side by accident. I mean, to be fair, the first onboard, it looked very much like he used him as a brake, but it was an honest mistake. I just think Fernando.
This is Fernando Alonso.
I know it's Fernando. I know it's really sad. I am really hoping it's a blip.
No, it was abysmal for Alonso this weekend. I don't care.
I think it's abysmal for Alpine. Not Alpine. Aston Martin. Jesus, you can tell where my head was at the start.
I don't think it helps that Aston Martin. But Fernando Alonso. He should still be at least around P12 sort of area, and he wasn't.
Well, he was around there.
He wasn't. He was around there at the point because he hadn't pitted and everyone else had.
Fernando Alonso, yeah, but he made that extra. He didn't have to make that extra pit stop.
No, but
he pitted like 5 laps from the end.
Yeah, but he wasn't up there. He pitted 2 laps from the end.
Exactly. He wanted the fastest lap. I mean, to be fair, he got it. 17th is Guan Yu Zhou.
He started from the pit lane.
Yep. I mean, once again, right, all I'm going to say is with Zhou is that it's hard to grade. The Sauber's the hardest car to grade because they're just consistently shit every weekend.
They are.
Spain was the only track where they actually looked relatively decent. They looked like maybe if there was like 5 retirements, they could score a point.
Maybe, yeah.
But they just look shit everywhere. I ain't gonna lie, right? I know he's got outdone by Bottas is 16th as well. I'm just gonna give them both a 3. I just don't think they can do any more. There's nothing else they can do. I know Zhou did nothing wrong. He got punted. He didn't make a mistake. Actually, no. I'm giving Zhou a 2 because he did qualify last, and he qualified last by quite a bit, like 4 tenths, and that's unacceptable. But apart from that, neither of them did anything wrong.
He had a decent race, granted. I'm pretty sure he got damaged.
Yeah. So it's a 2 from Zhou, a 3 from Bottas. For me, who finished 16th. Yeah. I mean,
that's about it.
That Sauber's just so dog. What the fuck is it doing, man?
Yeah.
And someone who had a decent race, considering the Williams was absolutely nowhere, was Alexander Albon.
Started P18, came up to 15th.
Wasn't a bad race from Albon. He got out-qualified by Sargent in the sprint qualifying.
Well, that's an automatic 0.
It's a 0 for the sprint quali, yeah. If you get out-qualified by Sargent, you've really fucked it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's poor. Sprint race, still finished behind Sargent.
Yeah, but it's a sprint race, isn't it? And everyone was stuck in DRS train.
Oh, so, I don't care.
No, I mean...
It's Sargent.
But, yeah, Williams was nowhere, kind of like the Sauber, but he had a good race. Obviously, out-qualified him in the normal quali, the normal race.
You see, he had a good race. Came up a few places. That's what we expect. So, I would give him the race is what?
A 3.
A 3? The qualifying, he outdid Sargent, but he only qualified P18.
Yeah, but that Williams has been nowhere all
That
weekend.
Williams, it's a 3. Sprint quali, it's a 1. Shouldn't happen. It is a 1.
Can't be out-qualified by Sargent.
No.
That's just not.
And the race, granted, he started from the pit lane, but he didn't do much either. I'd say sprint race, it's a 2 because the sprint quali fucked him up. So I would give him overall a 2.
I'm giving him a 3.
If you took everything together.
See, the law of averages says yes, but at the same time, you have to rank everything. But
you love Albon.
No, you have to rank everything. However, all I'm saying is the race and the main qualifying matters more. So the fact that he hasn't fucked that, which is what I was saying about Lando earlier as well, because he hasn't fucked that, and he's
specific words at the start of this was we have to take into account sprint qualifying and the sprint race.
Yes.
We're 4 or 5 drivers in. Oh, it's the main part that really matters.
Yeah, but what? No. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Right. Hold on. Yeah, but okay. Here's how I see it. If Albon absolutely sends it into turn 1 and takes out 5 cars in the sprint race, and then he scores a point in the main race, I'm not going, oh, it's a 5 because he scored a point in a Doug Williams. I'm going, no, it's probably a 2 or 3 because he's absolutely decimated 5 other drivers this weekend in the sprint race. But he got out-qualified by Sargent. I know, you can't get out-qualified by Sargent. But apart from that, he hasn't really done anything wrong, and that Williams is nowhere anyway. So I don't think it really matters. It doesn't matter that he gets out-qualified by Sargent. The Williams is not getting anywhere near the points anyway. So the fact that he's had a better race, I'ma just say, that's all I'm saying. If someone fucks the sprint really, really badly, crashes, takes people out, does a Magnussen, you know what I'm saying? I get it, right? That's when it overpowers the normal race, and it's kind of like, yeah, we got to. This has really got to be taken into account. But the Williams is nowhere. It doesn't really matter.
No, the Williams isn't anywhere. And you're right, it doesn't matter. But we've got to give an overview of the whole weekend, the way that drivers performed the whole weekend. Granted, Sunday and back end of Saturday, it's back to Albon things. It's a 3. But Friday and Saturday morning, not good enough.
I think it's
overview as a whole weekend for Albon. It's below par as a whole weekend.
That's fair. It's a low 3 for me. It's a low.
Okay.
It is a low 3.
Okay.
Yuki Tsunoda.
2.
Damn, you're quite harsh today. I'm giving
I'm quite
Yuki
harsh today because his teammate got points.
I'm giving Yuki a 3. I think it's less. Okay, he got outdone by Daniel Ricciardo. Comprehensively, yes. And I know usually
but when
we've
had instances this season, if I want to flash this back, Yuki scoring points, Daniel's where Yuki is. We're giving Daniel 2s and Yuki 5.
Yes. No, I'm very aware, and I'm about to explain why. So, at the start of the season, it was clear that the RB was best of the rest. Okay?
Yeah.
Since then, the Alpine has been quicker. We've seen that the Williams at some tracks can outperform the RB. The RB's definitely been slower. Haas are quicker now than RB overall the last few races. So, for me, RB is where Yuki is. It's been Alpine scoring points. It's been the Haas scoring points. On occasion, the Saubers were up there in Spain. The Williams were up there. Albon scored a point not too long ago. So, for me, that is where the RB is. Now, at the start of the season, when Yuki was scoring the 9th, it was like, that's amazing because that's incredible because he's scoring points. But the RB was still comfortably best of the rest. Now, it's not. It's definitely not best of the rest anymore. That car has been not best of the rest for a while. So this is where the RB is. So what I'm saying is it's less of Yuki underperforming, but it's more of Daniel overperforming. So
Yeah,
it's more
so-
of Yuki is where that RB is,
Yeah, but no, but
whereas
hang-
at the start of the season, I
hang
don't
on.
think
No, just
Daniel
hang on.
was.
Hang on. Right. So that works that way around, right?
Yes.
So have we been, seeing as that RB was clearly best of the rest, at times fifth fastest car,
Yes.
why would we giving Yuki fives then?
Because at the time, it was Formula A and Formula B,
Yeah,
and the top
so
10 were.
Daniel's matching what Yuki did in arguably worse circumstances.
Yeah, so it's more about Daniel overperforming rather than Yuki underperforming. This is my point. I completely agree with you. But when Daniel was where Yuki was, it wasn't good enough because the RB clearly was quicker than the other cars and had the potential to be where Yuki was. And Yuki was breaking into that top 10, which should have been Red Bull to Aston Martin. But Yuki was breaking into it. That's why he got a 5. But now, other cars are in front of the RB, and Yuki is probably where the RB should be, but Daniel is absolutely dragging that car to places it definitely shouldn't be. So it's more about Daniel overperforming rather than Yuki underperforming. And I don't think Yuki's had a bad weekend. He's been in the mix. And yes, he's going to get overshadowed by Daniel's performance.
No, I think Yuki's been quiet compared to Yuki standards.
Yeah, he has, but once again, I think it's more Daniel finally showing his form and his class rather than Yuki being.
Maybe.
Obviously you can view this differently. Yeah, that's fair enough. You can view this differently, but for me, I just think where the RB has shown its paces the last few races, I think both Yuki and Daniel have done bits from the car that they've got. So
yeah, it's still a 2.
That's fair enough. Let's move on to Lance Stroll. Well, I already said I'll give him a 3. I'll agree to you with your Fernando point.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair enough. 12th is Esteban Ocon.
Esteban Ocon, 12th. He really pissed me off that race.
Yeah, bro, you were absolutely fuming with Ocon.
Yeah, there's no need. There is
no
need with what he was doing to Gasly there.
No, absolutely agree. There's no need.
He's putting himself at risk, the car at risk, Gasly at risk. He's a danger.
I can see why Alpine are getting rid of him.
A point where you're the driver, and you become a danger to others, you shouldn't be racing.
No, and I can see why Alpine are getting rid of him, because Gasly clearly is favourite.
He shouldn't be on the grid next season if he's racing like that. He's too dangerous. Not good enough. Simple as that.
What I will say is, as much as I do want to downgrade Ocon for what he did, Gasly and Ocon were firmly running in the points, and it was Alpine's really poor strategy that got them out. Because both of them were, which is why we were saying why they fighting each other, because they were on for a 7th and 8th points finish. Because Perez would have eventually beaten, I guess, Hulkenberg. But he didn't.
No,
We'll get onto that. But they were firmly like 7th and 8th, right? They had good points in the bag. Alpine brought them in way too early. They just didn't have the tyres, and yeah, Alpine fucked it both.
They did, but you could clearly see Pierre Gasly was the superior driver to Ocon.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Gasly was quicker.
Ocon was making crazy moves. If he'd taken them out, I'm banning Ocon for the next race. No, I'm not even messing about. He's a danger to all drivers right now.
He's entertaining though. That's what I'll give him that.
No, but there's a fine line between entertainment and a danger. Like if they crash at high speed going into turn 3, that's a bad incident.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
not good enough from Ocon. And the only thing that's saving him is that they didn't crash.
No, at least they didn't.
It was firm racing. It was good racing at times, over the top at most of the time. So he's got a 2.
You don't race like that with your teammate. I understand if it's someone else, but you don't race like that with your teammate.
Even if that's someone else, it was over the top at that point.
It was, but I'm giving him a 3. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, there's no benefit of the doubt. He's a danger.
No, yeah, but we can't focus on that as the whole. Like he's been on pace with Gasly the whole weekend. He's qualified exactly where Alpine need him to for points. He had a great race. Alpine really fucked the strategy.
Didn't have a great race.
I think he had a great race, barring the incident with Gasly.
So,
and so no, it's obviously once again Ocon has put himself in a position where Alpine was scoring points. It was Alpine's fault with the strategy, in my opinion. I don't think there was nothing more.
It's not all. I think if Ocon had done the right thing, hadn't done what he'd done to Gasly for like consecutive laps, Gasly would have been in the points.
Gasly was in the points.
Gasly would have been higher in the points.
So, I mean, arguably that's also a case. But it's a 3 for Ocon. Maybe it is a little bit lenient.
It's a 2.
I'm giving him a 3 because I think they have really been stuffed by the strategy there. I think
this is consecutive races now that Esteban Ocon has not only been a danger to his teammate, to others, but he's putting the car at risk.
I don't think so. I've got here he's had 2 falls in the last 2 weekends.
Well, yeah, that's because they kept scoring points. And Gasly was that far up the road, he couldn't be a danger.
Gasly's done well, and we'll get to that. So 11th was Charles Leclerc. Now, I feel so bad for Charles Leclerc. I really do, because, and to be fair to Charles, he's done really well to get back to 11th. In a track where, as we saw in the sprint, DRS trains are just, you can't get anywhere. You literally cannot go anywhere.
And he made like 4 stops.
He did, yeah, and I mean, we were saying, weren't we, apart from the Alpine and the Haas stuff halfway through the race, it looked like it was going to be dull because no one could do anything. So the fact that Charles has somehow got back to 11th is, I mean, how far did he finish behind Perez in the end? 13 seconds behind Sergio Perez, made an extra stop and went to the back of the grid by the lap 1. I mean, he's done very well. That's all I'm going to say. He's done very, very well as Charles Leclerc. So, yeah, I'm just gonna give him a 3. You know, he's not had it wasn't his fault. I'm
gonna give him a 3 because Carlos Sainz has outdone him this weekend.
Yes, well. Yeah, but largely I feel bad for Charles. I do feel bad. I do feel bad for him. 10th, Pierre Gasly. Now, Gasly, once again, the lead Alpine, has outperformed Ocon most of the weekend, outqualified him, and if it wasn't for Alpine...
He didn't outqualify.
Did he not?
Not qualified, did sprint, but
not
Ocon outqualified.
Oh, okay. Well, oh, yeah, of course, and you had... Yes, okay. Yes, he did.
Which is why it's not a 5.
But if it wasn't for the strategy, you would have thought he would have finished in front of the Haas's, maybe Daniel Ricciardo.
Haas and Ricciardo.
Maybe one Haas and Ricciardo. He's had a very good weekend again, Pierre Gasly. You said, it
4, nearly a 5.
Yeah, high 4, very high 4 from Pierre Gasly.
Yeah.
But I can't give him a 5 for 2 reasons. He's been outqualified, and also he's only finished 10th in a race where 3 of the top 10 haven't scored points in the main race. So, obviously Alonso, Norris, and Leclerc. So, yeah, he's not capitalised there. 9th, Daniel Ricciardo, 5.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
That RB is nowhere. That RB's been nowhere for a few races now, and he's just...
He had a good race.
He's done bits.
Yeah.
He's done bits. It's 5.
He beat Yuki the whole weekend.
It's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the easiest one we've done.
That is genuinely the easiest one we've done. And yeah, okay.
I think like these ones are going to be quite easy as well.
Yeah, I think it gets easier the higher up the grid you go, because you kind of got to consider a few more things for the other ones.
Yeah.
Kevin Magnussen. I mean, both Haas's have absolutely done bits here. And he had a very good sprint race as well.
Yeah, he did. Was he finished 9th in the sprint?
I think so, yeah. For the Haas, he's done well. So, I mean, if normal points are in order, he's scoring points on both occasions. So,
I think we just grouped the Haas's together. They both got 5s.
Yeah, both 5s for the Haas boys this weekend.
Phenomenal weekend for Haas.
I mean, well. In the sprint qualifying, Hulkenberg had a big stink.
He had a huge stink.
But the fact that he's finished 6th.
He's finished 6th.
He's beat a Red Bull.
Bull.
It outdoes all of it.
The sprint race, he didn't do too bad either.
No, yeah, he did
penalty.
okay. Yeah. Oh, maybe it's a... Oh, no, you can't give Hulkenberg a 4, can you? Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's not anything too offensive in the sprint to where it kind of overpowers the race. But the race, he's literally beat a Red Bull.
The thing is, the race, the fact that he's beaten the Red Bull. If it was Checo's miles up the road, Hulkenberg, Gasly, Ricciardo, and Magnussen are like within a second of each other. Maybe you'd probably argue Hulkenberg 4.
But he's beat a Red Bull.
But he's miles up the road from them, and he's ahead of Checo.
So it overpowers everything.
Yeah.
Well, Checo Perez.
What a knobhead.
Hurrah!
I'm sorry. Max Verstappen was winning that race comfortably. Checo didn't even grace the top 5.
No, it's a 1.
He was miles off the pace of all the top runners and Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Haas. That's just shocking. Max can afford himself a crash, a puncture for a whole lap, and still finish how far ahead of his teammate?
Wait, let me count. It's like 17 seconds.
Almost another fucking pit stop. Almost another fucking pit.
Max crashed, got a puncture, went round the track, made an extra pit stop, and still finished 17 seconds in front of Perez.
This is right. Perez's last 6 races, by the way, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1.
Yep.
Get that man off the grid now.
He's not. He's had a bad... I mean, it is a 1. It has to be a 1.
Shocking.
Unbelievable. It is not good.
He wasn't even anywhere near in the sprint race. He only just picked up 1 point in 8th.
Well, you know how we always talk about Formula A and Formula B? Perez is in Formula B.
Perez is in Formula Z.
Nico Hulkenberg was the top of Formula B, and Perez is in 7th.
It's shocking behaviour.
Either way. 5th place, Max Verstappen. Right, I'm going to be really harsh here, and I'm going to be really biased and really harsh, and I do not give a fuck. It's a 2. Or is that lenient where you're concerned? No, I'm giving him a 2. I can't give him a 1 because he won the sprint race, he qualified on pole twice, but he's thrown away a race win off his own accord.
The thing is, though, qualifying for the race, he qualified on pole by 4 tenths around Austria.
Yeah, which is insane. But he's literally taken out... He's ruined another... This is what we were talking about, right? If you don't do anything... If he doesn't do anything offensive, right? And maybe he spins and he finishes 5th. We're going, oh, he's fucked it. But it's probably still a 3 or a 4 because...
He has taken out Lando.
He's literally ruined Lando's race, who was probably going to win. And Max has thrown away his chance to win the race as well.
Max needs to sort himself out, with the way they reacted to that.
Yeah, what is he doing? Max, this is the thing. At the moment, in the championship, I know he probably sees Lando and Charles and everyone else as a threat because Red Bull are losing time to the cars coming behind. But at the same time, the Red Bull was still miles down the road at the start of the season. He's like 50, 60 points clear. He doesn't need... It's not like 2021 when Hamilton and Max were just like neck and neck. He's got a massive margin. He doesn't need to be doing that.
2021.
Yeah, I was as well. I was as well.
This is interesting. Right? As soon as he's back under pressure, he turns into CRASHSTAPPEN again.
Yeah.
That is not what we expect from a 3-time world champion to lose his head like that.
And I'm embarrassed. I am embarrassed because
Max fans, you should be embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed. Because the last couple of years, I've been backing him saying, yeah, well, he's put that behind him now. And I think even in the stream that I did for qualifying, when you weren't here, we were talking about George Russell. Someone asked, can George Russell win a championship? And I was like, yeah, George Russell can win a championship. He just has to iron out his mistakes that he makes in the races. And George can 100% be a champion because he's quick in qualifying and he's consistent throughout the race, barring the mistakes. And I was like, that's exactly what happened with Verstappen. Like, he had the pace, raw pace, but he was just making those silly mistakes, crashing into people as he got the name CRASHSTAPPEN. And I was backing him saying, he's ironed it out now. When do you ever see Max crash into anyone anymore? And then he fucking goes and does it. Like, what the fuck? I'm embarrassed, man.
As soon as he's under pressure.
As soon as he's under pressure. I was backing him this whole time, and he's fucked it. Man, I've been proven really wrong.
The thing is, though, Max, 5 in the sprint quali, 5 in the sprint race, 5 in qualifying. He was on for another 5.
Yes.
He was on for a pretty damn perfect weekend.
Yes.
And he's taken a driver out.
That ruins it all.
It can't be a 1.
No.
Because he's still almost a pit stop ahead of Checo.
And he's delivered.
And
he's delivered in the sprint.
If you are going to crash, and you can maximise your points in 5th from it still.
Yeah.
It can't be awful, but he's taken a driver out. It's a 2.
Yeah.
But Max fans, Max Verstappen, check yourself.
I mean, like we were saying, if he spins and he finishes 5th, maybe it's still a 3 or 4 because he's made a mistake, but it's not offensive. But he's literally taken out his closest championship contender. He's taken out Lando Norris.
From a 3-time world champion, that's shocking.
You can't take someone out. And
that's shocking.
By the way, I know obviously by the books it is a 10-second penalty, but by no means he doesn't deserve anything close to 10 seconds.
No, he deserves to be out of that race.
And it's annoying because the same, and yes, I know people will go, well, Lewis Hamilton did it. Yes. We said the same thing. Obviously the podcast didn't exist, but in 2021 Silverstone, it was Hamilton's fault in Silverstone when he took Max out. Lewis should have backed out. And yes, Lewis didn't deserve to win that race. It's just, but these things happen. Yeah, Max didn't deserve to finish that race. He didn't deserve the 10 points he got. So,
no, but
either way.
At the end of the day, you've got to give the guy credit for keeping the car going.
Well, he's maximised it, hasn't he?
That's the only thing you can give him credit for there.
Yeah.
But that's poor.
And Max has had two twos.
Especially with Lando on the verge of a penalty as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny, actually? We've never given Max a 3 or a 1. He's only ever had 4, 5, or a 2. He had a 2 in Monaco as well.
Well, to be fair, the only reason he's getting a 2 is because I think the fact that he still finished that far ahead of Checo.
Yeah.
It just shows how far ahead he was in that race.
Shows how dominant Max is. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, if he hadn't finished, I'd be arguing a 1 for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult, and it's going to pain me. 4th is Lewis Hamilton. I have to give him a 2. I'm so sorry. Finished 23 seconds behind your teammate. Made a mistake, got a penalty, fucked up his sprint quali, which meant sprint was a little bit more difficult for him. And he's got to be putting himself in a position to capitalize on the fact that Max and Norris has gone out. And we'll talk about that more when we get onto Sainz, Piastri, and Russell. But when there's been so many mistakes, when there's been so many people not scoring points, Fernando's not there that often anymore, Charles isn't there, Perez has had a stinker, Max has crashed, Lando's out. Hamilton has to capitalise, and it's got to be better than 4th, and he's finished 23 seconds behind his teammate in the end due to his own faults, his own mistakes, and his own pace. It's a 2.
Yeah, I mean,
it pains me to say it, but it is true.
The sprint quali and the quali. See, he wasn't far off George in either of them, but it's put him out of position. It was his mistake at the start of the sprint quali as well.
And he damaged his floor by riding wide.
He did damage his floor. I think Hamilton's pace was actually there with them front runners. I think it was his penalty, and then he had to serve the penalty in the pit stop, which Oh, it was only 5 seconds stop and go. By that logic, you should only be 5 to 10 seconds behind. The thing is, when you have a stop and go penalty, it's more than the 5 second allocated. It is overall because that pit stop just keeps getting extended because it's down to crew reaction time after the 5 seconds. When he pulls in, when he pulls out, it's a mess. So that's another reason as to why he's far behind, but it's still not good enough. So it is a 2.
It pains me to say it because Lewis Hamilton, despite scoring,
4th.
despite still finishing 4th, is only 4th. Well, no. Okay, I'm not going to say that because that'll contradict something I have to say about George Russell.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say he's only 4th because people have retired, but then again, Russell's only first. But I've got only positive things to say about Russell, so I'm not going to use that as a point. I'm going to redact that, but I will say, because people have retired, Hamilton has to be in the position to be higher up. You know what I mean? He has to put himself in a place where he has to pick up on those errors by the drivers.
I do think the time penalty pit stop did not help him at all, but it was his own fault as a time penalty. He lost the car going into the pits. Granted, he was only not even half a tire over the white line, but the white line's the white line.
Yeah, and I was saying in the stream, like holy shit, like this is fine margins. Like
it's harsh, but it's the white line.
He did not deserve that penalty, not at all. But we understand that yes, some things like track limits, when lines are concerned,
it's the rules.
It's not like Lando where he goes off, doesn't gain time, and then it's a little bit more subjective. It's like, no, he goes over the white line, and that is the rule.
Yeah. And that rule's there because if he's battling and there's someone going around the outside of him there and he's crossed that white line, that's a crash.
And he clips him, then it's his fault.
That's why that rule's in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's it.
Especially with that pit entry.
That pit entry is one of the most dangerous pit entries in the whole calendar as well, so I can see why they were very slam dunk about that one. Yeah. Let's move on then. So Carlos Sainz in 3rd, which I'm not going to lie, apart from the start of the race, I didn't really see much of Carlos Sainz. He just kind of drove around in his own little world.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Hamilton was that far behind him after that stop-go penalty as well, it was a bit odd. But
yeah. But Sainz had the pace. I mean, Ferrari haven't really been that quick anyway, so Sainz has impressed me.
He just meandered about, didn't he?
He was there. It was a good race from...
He did his thing.
I'm going to give Sainz a 4. I mean, he's beaten Charles. He's put himself in a position to get a podium. And he's finished 4 seconds off the win. So, I mean, I can't fault Sainz. He's been on the pace when he needs to be.
Yeah.
So he's done well. Carlos. Yeah. Oh, Carlos. Good little haul of points there. 2nd, Oscar Piastri.
Now, his deleted lap time in qualifying was a bit harsh.
Yes, but once again, like Hamilton, this is what we were saying about Lando. So, if you track extent and obviously you have not lost time and it's clear that it was in spite of gaining, then yes, it is obviously fair enough. Whereas Lando's was, he goes off the track, maybe damages his floor, doesn't help his tyres and loses time, then it's a bit more subjective. But it's a qualifying lap, he's going quick, he goes over the white line, which he can't do, and he's gaining time by doing so. And the laps gets deleted, essentially. Yeah. It's a bit slam dunk, kind of like Hamilton's pit entry.
Yeah, it's harsh, but them rules.
And he put himself in a position in sprint to capitalise on Lando and Max's battle.
He did well to come from 7th, to be fair, to finish 2nd.
He did. I'm going to give, might be a bit harsh, I'm going to give Piastri a 3.
That's harsh. That's too harsh.
It's very harsh, but I'll explain why. If he doesn't make that mistake in qualifying, he wins this race very comprehensively. He wins this race by 15 seconds, at least.
Down to the circumstances that happened, yeah.
So he's cost himself a race win. His first race win at that. By fucking up in qualifying. And this is why qualifying is so important. The knock-on effect that that's had has changed the whole outcome of this race.
You see, the fuck up in qualifying, it wasn't that much of a fuck up either.
No, but it's the fine margins.
No, like, there's fine margins, there's track limits. Like, that was a harsh call for track limits.
Yes, of course it's a harsh call.
Like, I've seen track limits that are harsh, but that's the harshest I've seen.
Yeah, there's no doubt it was harsh. There was no doubt it was harsh.
It's not all down to his fault. He had a great sprint, great sprint race. He was there with Lando for the whole time. Finished second from 7th. Made cracking overtakes.
Yeah.
Like, phenomenal. And it's not a 5.
Okay, you know what? You've convinced me. It's a 4 because the moves he did pull.
Yeah, it's not a 5.
Great racing.
Because at the end of the day, it was track limits.
Yes.
It was his own fault, but it is a 4.
Okay, you know what? I can concede to that because you are right. My only thought is when there's the ultimate goal in any Grand Prix weekend is to win the race.
Yeah.
For any driver. That is even if it's a sprint race, everyone's thought is the main race, we win. Piastri would have done that.
Yeah.
And the qualifying is the knock-on costly effect. So, yeah, I mean, but you are right. To come through in a very tight field, we know Austria has very fine margins in terms of, the time gain.
Everything.
Yeah, he's done well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Let's move on then to the person who scored the most points throughout the whole weekend. I mean, yeah, it's gotta be, hasn't it?
It's a slam dunk. It's a 5. Phenomenal.
The closest person to Russell with the amount of points scored this weekend was Piastri.
Yeah.
But Russell beat Hamilton, extracted the most out of the Mercedes, was in the right position to win the race, was beating a McLaren and a Ferrari, and was beating his teammate, was beating Perez.
Yeah, can't argue.
Well, he was gonna be third anyway, despite everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was on the podium at least.
Yeah, no, fair play to the guy. He extracted it, done well.
George Russell is. I'm more and more impressed with George. The more I watch him, I'm hoping now we can see finally him iron out those mistakes and become sort of the driver everyone expects him to be. I know you're kicking yourself because you don't like George Russell, but we gotta.
I'll give credit where credit's due. This weekend's been phenomenal. But this is what pisses me off the most with George.
Mm-hmm.
He has these incredible weekends.
He does.
Which makes me think that's a world champion drive.
Yes.
I guarantee to you, within the next 4 races, I'm saying this is why he's not going to be a world champion. Because he's made another mistake.
Yeah.
I guarantee that.
Yeah.
He makes too many mistakes too often. And he doesn't... Like, when Max Verstappen was doing it, you can see from Max Verstappen's raw ability, he can win a championship even with them mistakes.
Yeah.
George Russell can't win a championship even with them mistakes, and I don't see him ironing them out anytime soon. He's got his old F1 career against a Max Verstappen, a Lando Norris, and a Charles Leclerc. All 3 of them, not only faster than him, they have less mistakes than him.
It's not easy, is it? George is come into F1 as a very quick driver, but at a time where he's up against Verstappen, Russell, Norris, arguably Piastri and Sainz as well.
Piastri, yeah.
And also, we've got to remember there will be other youngsters, Kimi Antonelli, Oliver Behrman, that come through in a few years as well. It's not looking good, is it?
It's not looking good. Like it's moments like this. If he can do this sort of weekend for 18, 19 weekends, great. But over a course of a season, you only see this from George Russell 4 times.
I know, but look, I'm just gonna say, looking back at the scores that at least I've given him, his lowest is a 2, and he only had it once. Overall, George has been consistently extracting pretty good results, and that tells me that consistently over this season, I'd say it probably has been his best season so far in the sport. But obviously, like you said, there's still time for those mistakes to come. There's a lot of time, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean. Yeah, it's been a very good weekend. Very exciting overall. Obviously we had the dull part in the race where it looked like it could go very differently.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts?
No, bring on Britain.
In this very long podcast, almost an hour long. I don't think we've done an hour podcast in a very long time.
Well, we had pretty major talking point.
Yeah, we did. But let us know in the comments below what you think about the Verstappen-Norris incident. Who is at fault? And make sure to join us next weekend, or join Jack next weekend for the British Grand Prix. I'll be in Greece, so sorry. Yeah, we'll see you for Tuesday's video. See you later.